It's the mom life.
Hey everyone, welcome to another Living in the Moment with B and Steph. And today we are talking, I guess, kind of current events on the internet. We are diving in a little bit into the Ballerina Farm article and then a couple other things on some mom influencers. But I know that you did a deep dive on Ballerina Farm last night after I told you to look her up. Um, and so for anyone that might not know, she's a mom vlogger. So she has YouTube, TikTok. She has 8 kids. She lives on a farm with her husband and her kids, her family. Um, they're like homesteaders, I think is the word, right? Like They are. living off the land, growing their own food, milking their own cows, type of thing. And she's also really interesting because she is a professionally trained dancer. She went to Juilliard and then she left to have kids. And that's just a general breakdown. Did you find a lot? Did you find her interesting when you looked her up last night? So when Steph first told me, she's like, have you heard of Ballerina Farm? And I'm like, oh, is that a toy? So I looked it up. I'm like, oh, it must be a new cartoon. Like, how cute. What a cute little idea, right? Yeah. No. So when I actually found her, I had just seen her this past weekend. I was looking Oh, up how to make bread, and my yeah. husband's like, oh, you're gonna go through that, like that's a stage. And I'm like, yes, but I'm not ready to make bread, so I'm not in my bread making phase
It's actually
yet.
really easy. You should
Oh,
you
you've made it? You've
yeah,
made bread?
if I can do it, yeah, it's super easy.
So I'm a baker, but I've never made like loaves of bread or anything like that. But when I was looking up a sourdough maybe recipe,
Mhm.
she came on.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, how cute. And it was like slow pace, very calm. I didn't pay attention to what her name was. But then when
Right.
I looked her up, I'm like, oh, it's this girl. This is the
Yeah.
girl I just saw.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And
um
so I've only come across her because she's like gone viral, I guess, like in a controversial way a couple of times, and she's come across my page. The first time was exactly like you said. She gives like this, very calm vibe, like just living her life on the farm type of thing. And actually, it came up. I guess people spotted like this stove in her house, and it's like really rustic looking, right? Really old looking. It's like $1 million stove, and so people like went digging, did a deep dive on her, and her husband is a billionaire. His dad owns JetBlue Airlines and like other
a bunch
stuff. I
of
don't know.
bunch of airlines, yeah.
Yeah, so they're super rich, right? So people were like, "Oh, this isn't authentic. Like she's rich, that's why she can live this way." Whatever, didn't faze me. I still like her. And so that was the first time though that she came across my feed, and then the second time, she just has a lot of like controversies come up. People love to have an opinion on her, and so the second time was 12 days postpartum, I think just after this most recent baby, her 8th baby, she went and flew from where they live in Utah to Las Vegas and did a beauty pageant.
I was gonna say,
And
wasn't she like Miss
yep,
Universe or in something, maybe not Miss Universe, but it was a pageant. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, and people were like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, she's up on stage, and like, I think I want to say maybe there was a swimsuit portion, but regardless, like, nightgowns, heels, completely dressed, full, to the nines, like top to bottom. And so that again, people were like, "Well, how are you doing that? Like, that's not safe, whatever." Same thing. I didn't really have an opinion on that either. More so, if anything, like, dang, how is she doing that? Like that is,
Like,
I
you
couldn't
go, girl.
imagine. Yeah, seriously, could not imagine. But now this most recent third time is she just had an article come out, not her, but an article on her in the New York Times, I think it was, and the article really kind of paint. Did you read it?
No, I
Okay,
didn't read that.
so it paints her in a pretty negative light. And so everyone and their mom, same thing, is on social media right now having an opinion on it. But like I said, she had gone to Juilliard, right? She's a professional dancer, ballerina. And she left this dream of hers to get married and have kids. Um, I think it should be mentioned probably that she and her husband are both Mormon. So I think that's super common for them to, get married really early and have kids really early. I think she was like 22 maybe when they did this. But again, the article really seems to paint her in a negative light, that she just went along with what her husband wanted. She gave up this huge dream and now she's
Oh, like she's being
depressed,
controlled.
like
Yeah.
depressed, living on a farm. Like she didn't want this.
I actually did read that. I didn't read the whole article, but I was reading
Mhm,
like little snippets, and it said, I guess the interviewer
mhm.
would ask her questions and she would never directly respond. Like her husband would
Or that her
speak on her
husband
behalf.
was answering. Yeah.
Right.
Apparently she had like this barn on the farm that was supposed to be her ballet studio, and
Oh.
that was her space, right? And then they had to convert it into a home school area. Um, what else?
Which I feel like that though is not controversial. I feel like that's just a parent thing. Like you think you have
No,
a space for yourself and your kids take over. Like
I
I
think
don't.
that's the full, like, my full opinion on it is, you become a parent and you make sacrifices, but who
Right.
who are who are we, who is this interviewer? And I highly doubt that she invited this person into her home knowing that they were just going to write this really ugly, like this ugly article on her. But that's just life. Like, why should it be the interviewer's opinion, or why should she be able to make this judgment call that, oh, she gave up all these dreams, she sacrificed all of this, and look how miserable she is with her family. Like, I just
So I know people are just ugly, and I think one of the biggest things with attacking influencers, and if you want to be one, you have to kind of prep for it. But
yeah,
if people don't find you relatable, they think you're wrong or you're bad or you're
that's true.
evil, and that's just not
That's
the
a great
case. Like
point.
just
Yeah,
because you don't relate to them exactly doesn't make them bad people.
that's a
And
really good point. Yeah, just because it's not what you would have done, maybe you would have wanted to
or what
continue
you
this other path.
experienced.
Yeah, it doesn't mean
Right.
that she's unhappy and it's not what she wanted. Yeah, I love that. That's a great point.
Yeah. And I feel like you said, when you're a parent, things do change, and it does change you a lot. And some moms, what they wanted to do before, they no longer want to do.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you want to do it even more. Like us, we're like, we're going to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Like motherhood just changes you, and you go through different phases as your children also go through different phases. And she has multiple children.
Yeah.
So I was looking at one of her interviews, and she said her whole point of making these videos was to show, farm to food, right? Farm to table.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where people got, oh, well, she's farming, she needs to be humble or like poor or not have money. I'm like,
Yeah.
she has not at like, I don't know. I could look like what I see behind her doesn't look like it's a cheap house. It
Yeah.
doesn't look like it's a poor house.
I
Like
have a
for people
ton
to
of
say,
land. There's ton of land in all
I
our pictures.
I feel honestly like I grew up with very humble beginnings, and you got to have a lot of money to have land and be able to
Yeah.
keep up with farm animals. Like
Mm-hmm.
when I see influencers and doing the farm thing, and I'm like, well, they got some money.
Yeah.
Because I think a majority of people who do stuff like that, it's the primary focus is health. It's not to
Mm-hmm.
say, oh, look, I can't afford stuff, so I have to make my own garden, or oh, like I gotta. No, livestock is so expensive. You got to
Mm-hmm.
feed these things, and yeah, I never thought like I never saw a video, and I only seen a couple. I saw her before you even told me, and I never thought, oh, they're so relatable because we're all middle class. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, she has time to do all this stuff. They live on one income. I think they're probably okay. They're
Yeah.
comfortable
Yeah.
because we can't afford to live on one income, so that, I mean, come on, people, be real. Like they're just harping on her.
Maybe that's like an old ideal though, is that like farming has to equal poverty, because I feel like in like my grandparents' generation, that was the case. Like they were having to grow their food. They were, having to live this lifestyle. Whereas
Now it's a
now it's a
privilege.
privilege. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And
And there,
yeah.
yeah, and there were some other parts of the article that, you know who knows, right? We don't live with her, we're not in her marriage, we don't know, but there was like some things that said, or made it seem like she was hiding the fact that she had an epidural on one of her kids from her husband, like that she was hiding that. She only said
Oh.
it like once he left the room because she's big on natural births. A lot of her births have been natural births. But she did have an epidural with one kid, and the interviewer made it seem like, oh, she said this really quietly after her husband left the room. But overall, I mean, I didn't like it because I just find that it's
They're
painting
just bashing her.
motherhood, but motherhood in general in this really negative light. Like, why is that necessary? Just because not everyone wants to take this path, we don't need to like bash her because she's happy being a mom and being with her family. I don't. So
I feel
I didn't
like
like
it's
it.
a right, and we're not going to get into politics, but I feel like with all the politics going around, and then I was looking into this, as long as the world has existed, moms and children have always been attacked. It doesn't matter what century, it doesn't matter what age, mothers and children are always attacked, and this is just a new age way of attacking them.
Yeah.
Like,
And parenthood has always, like I said, I think I said this in the beginning, equaled sacrifice. Like maybe we're not all leaving Juilliard and leaving this professional dance world, but everyone makes sacrifices. Like it's just part of probably not even just being a parent, like being a human, right? Like it's just life's not perfect. Not, you can't do every single thing you want to do all the time. So why are we going to make it seem like she made this horrible decision by starting her family and taking a different path. Like,
well, and you're right, and that's for her to say.
yeah,
Like
exactly. We don't know.
that's yeah, we don't know, and yeah, they're just poor girl. I mean, they're crucifying her. I mean, all the videos that I've seen is just her cooking,
Yeah,
baking. Like I'm like, I don't know why she's being. I don't know the full extent though, so
they touched
I
on that in the article too. That people are going to talk, and where they label. She said something along the lines of they label me, they label us, but we're just living our life. Like we don't come up with these labels. We're just going about our day and sharing it, and people are going to label us, and that's just that. And so I think that kind of takes us into like mom influencers in general. Like
right.
is it her mindset that all publicity is good publicity? Maybe, because I think that's a lot of the mindset of a lot of these other mom influencers. Um and so it's just kind of interesting, like how that works. And then not only that, but that we are so, and I know you don't watch them as much as I do. I'm big into the mom influencers, but like how that has become the relatable entertainment. Like we're not here for the Kar Jenners anymore. We're not going to watch Kylie Jenner be a mom. We're not going to, it's just not relatable. Like we're going to on TikTok and scroll and find this mom who's also up at 6 in the morning cleaning her house and taking care of her kids. Or if she's not doing that, she's sleeping on the couch and they had Doritos for dinner, because that's like real life sometimes.
Right. Yeah, no, I think it's good, it's relatable, but it's also such a scary venue. Like I feel
Oh, it's a total slippery slope for
it's
sure.
and I was looking at a lot of mom influencers and controversies. A majority of the issues that seem to come are from like child exploitations.
Mm-hmm.
Just and so out
100%.
I feel like outside of that there's a lot of support, but when you're showing your kids, then you're going to have a lot of naysayers,
Yeah.
or you're going to
Yeah.
have obviously the dark web and people making nasty comments.
And should that, like, is that the right thing? And, we always say, like, to each their own, fine. But our kids' content, like, we don't think so, right? When we started this, we were like, we don't want the kids on here. But some people do. And some of these moms get huge followings. And a lot of it is based off of their kids primarily being their content. And maybe at some point they switch gears a little bit, like once they grow a lot. But there's a few that I have found. Avery Woods, for example, she has millions of followers. And the reason I found her was because she would do these voiceovers of her
Oh my
toddler,
god, I
and
just
she's
saw
like
that too.
You saw her? So she would do these
Mm-hmm.
voiceovers of her toddler, and it's like literally recording the baby's whole day and just like
Right.
do like acting like you're the baby talking. And they're super cute, right? They're super cute for us normal people, but that is like a lot of content of your kid. And as you just said, there's a lot of sick people online, and like that doesn't really seem worth it. Like that's, I mean,
I'm
in my
even
opinion, that's
I'm
not worth
even
it.
like that with like my little sister, and she's
Mm-hmm.
of age, but I'm like, be careful what you post. You know, there's sickos out there. They're gonna print your picture. They're gonna have it on your wall. Like
Yeah.
I used to work at a jailhouse when I was younger, and it freaking blew my mind. I
Mm-hmm.
thought a majority of people coming in were going to be for drugs and alcohol, and it was not. It was
Yeah.
unfortunately for that. So I'm like, nope. And so, like Steph said, when we started this, the first thing we said is we want to open a forum where moms can connect, because you do need each other. You need your village. We are your village. You need moms. So
Yeah.
interact with us. We're always here. But our big thing was we don't want to show the kids. And
Mm-hmm.
so you'll see some videos with like the kids in the background, with the back, with their maybe a little bit of their side, but we're not going to show their faces.
And they're not
One,
the primary focus. And
no,
I mean, and that's, and maybe it's naive, right? I'll post pictures of Maddie on Facebook for like my family. It's private. Again, maybe that's naive, and some people will probably come and say the internet's the internet, right? But it's what you're comfortable with, and I feel like if you have millions of followers and you're just posting all of these pictures and like this daily life of your kid for people to see and watch, and it's just crazy. Another one that comes to mind. Have you heard of? I don't know. I don't know their last name. I don't think she posts it, but it's the page name is Ren and Jacqueline. It's like the
I
mother
saw
daughter.
I
Did you
did.
come across it?
Yes, I'm telling you. I looked up like mom accounts controversy. Yep, that was
And
another one that
see,
came up.
these are the ones that come up on top, right? These are the top
Right. Mm-hmm.
moms in this influencer world right now. And so it's not very hard to find this information. And that one, for example, is awful.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting is people, you say you have millions of followers, right? And if every other comment on your posts is, you know,
Inappropriate.
warning, moms warning you, people warning you, like telling you this is not good, you shouldn't be posting this, like this and this and this could happen, and you're just ignoring it because these videos are getting millions of views. I can't even imagine how much money they're making, but off the back of this two-year
It's not
old
worth
child,
it.
like
Yeah.
what? It's and I mean, not like it matters, but is this money even going into a trust account for her?
So
Like,
didn't I feel like this
doubt
week
it.
didn't I send you and Daisy something that said like they're gonna make a new law, and I feel like I don't. My husband's like, it's from California, but I'm like, it wasn't California, but they're going to make a new law that if you make a certain amount, a certain percentage needs to be put away for the baby, like
That's
for the
good.
child.
Yeah.
If you're promoting them, and if that's what you're doing, right? So if you
If
have four
that's
kids
your
that you're
main
promoting,
content,
right?
yeah.
So I hope they do that. But
I do
I think
too.
like when I think of kids, one, you don't have their consent. Two, you don't
Exactly.
know who they are right now. They're so innocent and they trust
Mm-hmm.
you so much to protect them.
Yep.
And you don't know who they're going to be when they're older. You don't know their personalities. I'm talking about millennials in our 30s, if we were mortified with old pictures that our parents had in albums, if friends would come over,
Mm.
imagine these that don't go away, that millions of people will forever have access to.
Yep.
That
It's so
is,
true.
that I'm like, oh my God, these poor kids. Like, it's
And
not
it's
worth it.
like there's no ba- home base, like baseline for this, right? Like this is the first generation that this has happened to, where these
Right.
kids are just getting, so there's no reference point. We don't know how this is going to affect them when they look back and like, oh my gosh, my entire life is on the internet. Like it's
Well,
crazy.
and then like even some people, I'm like, come on, you have common sense, but this is when I do start to think like you really just want the likes, which is disgusting. But I saw one where a mom filmed her daughter you being potty trained, but
Mm-hmm.
it, I'm just like, why are you showing that? Why is
Mm-hmm.
that being shown? I don't know.
The internet has really
There's no
like
learning purposes for that.
skewed
Yeah, it's
skewed
disgusting.
people's filters in their everyday life.
Oh,
And I'm thankful that we like are older, right? And so can you imagine if like everything you did was posted on Snapchat when you were 12, 13, 14, like this kid making these dumb choices, like
I think we even got
like
lucky in our
it's
20s,
awful.
and that wasn't long
Mhm.
ago, but it's so different just the past 5-10 years. Like, it's
Yeah.
just so, thank God. It wasn't as
Mhm.
big. Like, we got to really enjoy our mistakes. Like,
Yeah.
I don't.
And take out the kid part of it and kids being content, even just kids like consuming content, is something that they're starting to find some results on. Like what age should kids get phones and have, social media specifically. But yeah, I mean, they're starting to come out with some
Well,
studies
and
on
I
it, but I don't think anything about these kids that are posted online and how they're going to feel in 15, 16, 17
Well, and I
years.
feel like I've seen something going around. Did you see that? That I've always sent Stephanie random things. I'm like, I just send her because I'm like, we could
No.
talk about this or this. But I feel like there was something going around that they were going to ban cell phones. I don't know what city, but it was happening like in all
Yeah.
schools. And I don't
Oh,
know,
in schools. Yeah.
like, yeah, like elementary, middle, high.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I don't know how I feel about that. That's hard too because I don't know. You want to be able to reach your kid. I don't think little ones should have phones, but I do
Get a
like,
flip phone.
or I do
I'm
like the emergency watches.
Yeah.
Like, you
Or,
can
or
still
they
call
make
them.
phones for kids with like three buttons, like so they have stuff that you can use if you wanted your
The
kid to have a
phone is
phone in
not the
school.
scary
But
part. It's the internet on the phone that's scary,
exactly.
right? If you can dial to your
Exactly.
family and your friends, and I mean, your family after school, that's great. But
Mm-hmm.
it's the internet, the access of the internet, because people are filthy.
Yeah. So, anyway, it's a super interesting topic. I feel like we should touch on it again. Maybe do some more deep dives into other mom influencers and maybe people that advocate for mm, like protection of kids. Like I know Blake Lively is big on that. Is celebrity wise and like paparazzi not being able to take pictures and post them of these celebrities' kids. Nikki Reed is big on that. So I know a lot of them like block out their kids' faces and don't post them either. Christine Cavallari, a
So
bunch of them do it.
going back to Ballerina Farm, though, was she? I didn't see anything where her kids came out. Do they come out? Is that like one of the?
I don't think it's a main focal point of her
Okay,
content, but she doesn't like not show them
okay, they're
either.
like in the
Yeah.
background.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Um,
know.
but yeah, so that was interesting. That was a fun a
Yeah.
fun deep
So,
dive. I'm
well,
glad that you looked into a bunch of them. And I find it really like amazing that the ones that I know of are the first ones that you found. So they're just the it moms of the influencer world right now.
yeah, I mean, I feel for those moms. I was talking to my husband about it the other day, and he's like, "You have a podcast. That means you guys are influencers." Technically,
To our 35 subscribers.
I'm like, to y'all, to my family. Okay, I'll take it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, we're not. We're talking about these big, like, obviously,
Millions and millions of
like these
followers
real
and views
influencers,
and
right? Like,
yeah.
I I don't think it's a bad thing as long as your focal point is not your children.
Yeah.
It could still, like, for us, I love to shed light on motherhood. That's our whole thing. I want to always celebrate everything that I experience with my son, but I don't want to sell my son on the internet. I
Right.
don't want his face to be there like, look guys, it's JJ again. You're going to hear me say his name a million times, but you're going to see me and my day, not my
It's
son.
also why we're not like focusing completely on like the kids either and like their stories and their milestones and like because this is not the point of this. So
Yeah, it's about motherhood
yeah.
and bonding and having each other. And yes, obviously, children are a huge portion of motherhood, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of other parts to motherhood as well, your
Yeah.
own self. And so that's what we want to focus on. That's why we started this, so that we can talk, we can share recipes, we can share frustrations, we can really build a community, but it's not to exploit our children. So that was the main point of today was just diving into that because we just started this. We're so new, but it does feel like sometimes we have to double check what we're doing because we don't ever want to put our children out in the line
Yeah.
just to get content or just to get followers or just to, it's not, no.
Right. If we posted these kids, we'd have millions of followers because they're the cutest ever.
Because they look like us.
Yeah, they're our little besties. I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's just something that we talked about and that we weren't for. And I don't know. Is that something that you say to each their own? Yeah, you just like I said last time, you have to make the decisions that you feel are best for you and your kids and your family. And so we're not judging anyone, but but this is just our opinion on the matter. So
Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, thank you guys for tuning in yet again. And we will be back next week.
See y'all.
Bye.
Living in the moment, it's the mom life.